Today's video will discuss using external or custom-created fluid files in CoilDesigner. We will demonstrate this video with a tube-in-tube heat exchanger, but the properties discussed are applicable to any heat exchanger type. We will leave all default numerical values and other default selections, including units. None of these values will actually be relevant for the demonstration in this video. For tube-in-tube heat exchangers, there are two refrigerant selections, the inner tube fluid and the outer tube fluid. The process for selecting these fluids is exactly identical, so I will do all the demonstrations for the inner tube fluid. CoilDesigner's default refrigerant selection is a drop-down menu containing many common refrigerants for heat exchanger applications. If none of these are suitable to your design purposes, you may choose a user-defined, custom, external fluid file. There are 4 different options for how to do this. The first is having a user-defined fluid file. This is a .fld file, which you must create on your own. This video will not discuss the creation of these files, but there is more information in the CoilDesigner help file. Once selecting this file, the user-defined fluid file path will light up, and you may press Browse. If you have an existing .fld file, you can navigate to it and open it. For the purposes of this example, you may find sample.fld files in the CoilDesigner folder that comes with the software by opening any of the Properties folders and then opening the Fluid folder inside. Here are a number of fluids that may or may not appear in the drop-down menu. They are all .fld files, so you may select any as your example. Once you have selected the fluid, you may continue through the rest of the CoilDesigner wizard. The next option for a custom file is a user-defined mixture file. Similar to the user-defined fluid file, this is an external file that you have either created or obtained from somewhere that you will need to load into the CoilDesigner program through a direct path. You will still be using the user-defined fluid file path. Like with the fluids, you can navigate to any of the Properties folders inside the CoilDesigner folder, but this time open the Mixtures tab. As we will see later, there is an option to create your own custom mixture from fluids that are already in the CoilDesigner drop-down menu. This is for custom mixtures that have been created outside of the CoilDesigner software. The third option is to have a user fluid that is contained within an external library. Here, your user-defined fluid file path will darken. The text will remain in the box, but it will not affect CoilDesigner's process. Instead, you will go to the user-defined fluid property library path. The fluids that can be used from an external library are only valid if they are single-phase pressure-temperature fluids. You will pull one of those up from your computer. As you can see, this type of file must be a .dll file, so you must do coding on your own. Again, this video will not address the creation of these types of files, but there is information in the CoilDesigner help file. There are a number of .dll files in the CoilDesigner folder. However, none of them are fluid files, as with the other examples, so inputting them here for the example will not enable your coil to properly run. The final custom option is to have a user mixture from built-in components. In this case, the user-defined refrigerant mixture box will light up. You will press Define, and then it will take you to a table with components and mass fractions. What this option enables you to do is it enables you to design a mixture with the already built-in fluid components in CoilDesigner and assign each of them a mass fraction. To add a refrigerant, press Add Row. Then, in the component column, you will have the same drop-down menu that you would have if you were selecting just a simple component. You can select any component and give it a mass fraction. There is no limit to the number of rows and components that you want to add. However, the mass fractions must all sum to 1. Once you have added all your components and inputted their mass fractions, press OK. As I mentioned before, if you try out a number of options, all text will remain in the text boxes, but only the lit up option is what CoilDesigner will actually use to create your coil. Once you're done with the wizard, if you wish to change any of your fluid selections, you may navigate to that in one of two ways. The first is on the far right side of your screen under the Common Tasks, pressing Edit Parameters. Once you've pressed that, go to the Refrigerants folder and it will bring up the same menu as in the wizard, here with only your final fluid selection highlighted. Another way to navigate to the identical menu is to go to the Project tab and press Edit Parameters from there. For more questions, please contact support@optimizedthermalsystems.com or consult the CoilDesigner help file.